Say that again. Okay. You can see me? Good day. I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever my viewers are. On behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, I'd like to wish every one of you a bright and prosperous new year. I am Gabrielle De Souza, the Agricultural Officer 1 for the Soil and Land Capability Unit of the Research Division. And today, I'm here to talk to you about the National Soil Testing Program. Now, before I get into this, I know it may be breakfast, it can possibly be lunch. Go get that lunch because I hope to make you have a passion for soil as well as to engage your mind. So get that sandwich, get that coffee or tea. I'll wait. And while you're getting it, I'll set up my presentation. So yes, I'm here to talk to you about the National Soil Testing Program with an emphasis on the importance of soil testing. Now, you see those fun-looking characters at the bottom right of the screen? At the Research Division Soil and Land Capability Unit, we do chemical testing. So we do for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, pH, and electrical conductivity. Now, yes, I know you're saying, what about the physical properties? Now, even though at the current moment, we do not do physical properties testing, when we come to take your we actually take GPS coordinates, which we plug into our GIS program, and it can help in identifying your soil type. So you're seeing sand being the largest particle, followed by silt, followed by clay. For our soil test reports, we are able to generate this information with regards to your soil type, the type of drainage, whether it's free, whether it's imperfect, the type of topography, this means in terms of the whether the land is flat, whether it's undulated, whether it's hilly, or whether it's sloping. And of course, we can tell you your land capability class, class 1, dealing with the most arable soil, or class 7, which means that that soil may not be the most appropriate soil for agriculture. But hey, that's the reason for soil testing, right? I know. So what is soil? Soil is material composed of 4 components: minerals, which I just tell you we basically test 45% of that, followed by air, 25%, and water, which is another 25%, and a very, very important characteristic, which is the organic matter of the soil. This is where all our soil organisms thrive. Okay, so 5% of that soil contains, or usually contain, organic. Now, there are different layers of the soil. So that organic matter is usually called topsoil, followed by your surface and subsoil and your parent and the bedrock. So basically, soil forms from the parent and the bedrock. It takes thousands of years through a weathering process to get the type of soil we all have today. What is a soil test? Now, we hold interviews with the farming community and our crop producers, even our home gardeners, we haven't forgotten you. We ask them, why do you want to do a soil test? And they always say, well, I want to do a soil test to find out what I can plant. I agree. That is one reason for soil testing, but it is not the only reason. Why do we do a soil testing? We do soil tests because at the end of the day, we want to find out about our soil's the health of the soil, the type of soil that we have, so we will know how to improve our soils, whether it's for agricultural purposes or whether it's for residential or industrial use. Soil has a versatile profile, and we have to be able to know what type of soil we're dealing with so we can manage it appropriately. So again, the first step is actually finding out what's in the soil to plan a sound nutrient management program. So again, I'm stating there are many reasons for soil testing. Of course, for my farming communities, we want to improve crop production. That's our main goal, right? Dollars and cents. But in soil testing, we also have to be very, very mindful to protect our environment. It is our social responsibility to appropriately use agriculture inputs. So this is not just limited to fertilizers and limestone, but it also means in terms of pesticides, we must be mindful of how we apply and how much we apply in order to protect the environment. Now, I'm letting you know this. It works hand in hand. The soil works hand in hand to give you a so, sometimes you're wondering, how lettuce leaf looking green? Why my flowers from my melangen plant are dropping or my tomatoes are not blossoming? That's because most times the soil has a nutritional deficiency. And it's not only that, most of the time, most bacteria which contribute to pests and diseases operate on pH values of 5.5. And because of that, it makes your plant more susceptible to these kinds of deficiencies. Like I just reiterated, dollars and cents, right? It's COVID-19. I mean, money has always been important, but right now it has gotten exponentially important for us. And we have to be able to save money. We've seen our customs costs, right? When we bring things, the costs are out of this world. So we have to be able to save money as well as conserve energy. For my farmers that know, hey, this backbreaking thing, labor, we have to conserve our energy by applying the right amount of inputs for the soil. And last but not least, it serves as a very important guideline for land use and management. Sometimes we as producers take the time to realize the type of land as well that we're using for agriculture purposes. Sometimes you're planting, and you're saying, but this thing not yielding. And that is because sometimes when we plant, we don't return nutrients to the soil. And that is something that I'm going to try to get through to you today. I can, by the way. So yes, I'm going to say a line, and I want this to resonated in me deeply. Last year, I attended a forum, the Global Forum on Agriculture, that was held in Berlin. And a guest speaker stated something that was so important that it stayed with me. This is what it is. Listen carefully. Soil is a diamond that needs to be polished today and for all of future generations. A diamond, right? A diamond is costly, so you know how valuable soil is. And we have to, as human beings, have a social responsibility in how we take care of soil. Now you're seeing this picture up, and basically what it's basically stating is that many of our global sustainable development goals rely on healthy soils and sustainable land use in order for our soils to function, to provide ecosystem services. It has to be able to fulfill a social demand. But in order to fulfill that social demand, it has to be healthy and sustainable. So I'm going to say healthy soils are life. From a home gardening series that we had approximately a year and some ago, I basically stated that a healthy soil yields a healthy plant, yields a healthy animal, a healthy human being, and a healthy ecosystem. I cannot stress how important it is to have healthy soils. So as you're seeing, the sustainable goals, there are approximately 10 of them. There may be more, but at least that directly deals with soils. Of course, if we do not manage soil, we cannot secure food and sustainably produce food. So of course, no poverty, no hunger. I just spoke about how health is affected, right? What we put bodies at the end of the day most of the time, of course, not in terms of all planting mechanisms, but a healthy soil, we basically ingest plants and animals, and what they assimilate from their plants or from the soil itself comes into our body. And we have to be mindful. All these diseases that are around are a contributing. Soil plays some account into what we put into our bodies. Besides agriculture and the environment, soil plays a very imperative role because it plays a crucial role, not just for the farming community, but for residential areas. Our populations are increasing. We have to be able to build houses and not have them collapse, correct? Once land capability reports are done, and of course we do that at the research division, we are able to say if this land is suitable for this type of development, very closely with town and country planning in this regard. And of course, we must be mindful of climate action, life above land and life below water. Once we are able to remediate the soil, which is basically to try to rid it of heavy metals and contaminants, we will always have clean water. We will always have a healthy ecosystem full of biodiversity, which is going to keep us of future generations. So yes, these are some components that you need to manage in order to have a healthy soil. So of course, land preparation. Try not to overtill the soil. Try to reduce the amount of soil erosion and soil pollution. With regards to water use, try optimizing your irrigation. At the research division, now, we are with the times. We are getting climate smart technologies because right now we're even thinking about the just transitioning into cleaner energy by using solar powered equipment in our vegetable system. Of course, at the ministry, research division is the first, and we set the pace. For crop and seed selection, now I know all the prices of strawberries and all these apricots and cherries, they're very, very high. Of course, we can obviously mimic conditions to plant it, but what I try to emphasize to our farming community is that you try to get high quality planting material that is best suited for local soils. Let me tell you why. It's not that we can't plant that strawberry and whatnot, no, we can, but in doing that, we have to ensure that it's under a controlled environment and it doesn't mess with our existing and fauna, because now I'm speaking this in terms of not just local, but regionally, globally. We must pay particular attention to manage our soils and to keep our natural flora and fauna, which is our natural microorganisms as well as our organisms that live above land as well. And of course, we must sustainably use agricultural inputs. This makes up not just fertilizers and pesticides, but of course the judicious, meaning of sound judgment, judicious use of limestone, because at the end of the day, if we do not take our time and know what we are doing, we cannot get the full benefit of the soil. Now in the tropics, one of the major constraints we face, not just in the farming community, but overall, is soil acidification. And I know it's a big word, but basically what it means is a buildup of hydrogen cations, which is basically pH levels. Now, pH is a measure of, how to say it, acidity or alkalinity. Now, what I'm trying to tell you right now is that most crops tend to thrive between 5.5 to 6.5. Now, you're going to see a slide because pH is very important to manage, because if you don't manage your pH levels, no matter how much NPK you apply, you're going to be wasting your money, because at the end of the day, the nutrients are not available to the plant for uptake. So in minimizing soil acidification, like I just reiterated in the previous slide, we must use fertilizers as well as limestone, After you plant, you try to incorporate that plant residue, which is basically amelioration. As you remove, you put back. That's just a law, right? We should make that law. But anyways, that's another conversation. And of course, the use of organic fertilizers. Now, I know some people are saying some organic fertilizers are acidic. Some manures are acidic. And yes, I agree. But they are slow and they contribute not just to the chemical properties of the soil, but the physical structure. Organic fertilizers also make the environment friendly for all our microorganisms and our organisms, such as earthworms. When we have a healthy soil, when you watch soil and you crumble soil and you say, boy, this soil looks wonderful. I know I sound passionate about soil. I am. Believe you me, I am. A nice rich soil and you see your earthworms and you see lots of little beneficial insects, tell yourself you are doing your part in contributing to having sustainable soils. And I know it's hard for my monocropping farmers because of export purposes and whatnot, but try intercropping. Of course, please intercrop. Try using leguminous plants. These plants are known to fix nitrogen, bacteria, which of course adds protein, which are nitrogen, phosphorus, and these friendly, loving bacteria to the soil. So I just spoke about pH, right, in conjunction with soil acidification. And like I stated, no matter how much fertilizer you apply, if your pH is low, as you're seeing for 4.5, if you're applying fertilizer, 71% approximately is going to be weak. So you're seeing that from values of 5.5 to 7, at least for NPK, you're not going to be wasting much fertilizer once you adjust your pH. Now, I know you're probably wondering, but how do I adjust my pH? You adjust your pH by adding limestone. What is limestone? Limestone is a chemical that contains calcium and magnesium, and calcium is able to those hydrogen ions, which then increases your soil pH and improves the soil itself. Now, I tell a lot of farmers, the only difference between plants and animals, okay, well, not the only, but one of the main differences is they can't talk, but it remains the same. Just like how when we were babies, we require calcium for strong bones and healthy feet. Correct. It's the same concept for plants. Calcium sets the pace for a strong cell wall and cellular system. It gives brighter leaves and less deficiency. You want to know why? Because it doesn't just start with the soil. It continues onto each and every part of it, even in post-harvest. I recently did some research on cassava, and it showed that with calcium addition, the of how to say vascular streaking, or that blue streaks that you see when you harvest cassava, is greatly reduced with the use of limestone. So yes, we're fixing the soil, but we honestly and obviously making the produce that we produce making them stronger, making them have longer shelf lives naturally. That's what we hope to achieve. So everything is interconnected, as you're seeing. I hope you're connecting those dots. Take another bite of that sandwich. I hope I'm holding your attention, right? Or who knows? Anyone reaching dessert? I personally love chocolate. We want to thank all the people who work towards chocolate, our cocoa farmers, our chocolatiers, our entrepreneurs. We are the Ministry of Agriculture. We encourage youth and entrepreneurship. Take a look at our website, but I'll continue on. I just stated with fertilizer wastage. Now I'm showing you how it affects the availability of plant nutrients. So you're seeing to the bottom of the screen, 4.0 to 10.0, but you're noticing the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, calcium, and magnesium. They're basically primary and secondary macronutrients, but you see that they tend to be mostly available from the 5.5 to approximately 8. take for some of the nutrients. But Gabby basically stated, she stated 5.5, not true, most crop tends to thrive. That is correct. What we always mistake this because we always focus on our macronutrients, and it is showing in our society. Last year I read an article and I was doing some research, and you know what was clear as thing? We as a global population, foods are not providing sufficient micronutrients, and this is because where are they getting it? If we don't apply it, then we subscribe to consistently purchasing micronutrient supplements, whether it's zinc, whether it's iron. We buy it because our food aren't able to provide these supplements to us. So I want us to pay particular attention to the 5.5 that you're seeing for or manganese or boron or copper or zinc. Now, as much as they may not be needed in large amounts, they are needed because they're needed for cellular processes, they're needed for transpiration, they're needed for metabolic processes, just like how our bodies require them. Even though we don't require them in great, we still need them because they help improve our immunities at the end of the day and help to make all our organs, which in terms, it's the same concept. Now, yes, so I've showed you, and I hope you've seen how important it is to test your soil. I can't stress it enough. Now, I want you to know, okay, time to access this soil testing service, correct? Yes. So there's 3 ways in how you can access the soil testing service. Through your county offices, we have soil test request books. You make a request, and we help to take your soil sample. But I know after this presentation, my farming community, my crop producers, tooth bagay, everybody coming in to drop a sample, and I'm going to tell you all how to take a sample. So you can bring it in. I know it's COVID-19, so we'll make that appointment, not to worry. And of course, please feel free to contact the Research Division at the Central Experimental Station at the number 646 3527, or drop us an email at sasu.ces@government.tt. Components of soil testing. So basically, I'm just telling you how to take a soil sample. When you take a soil sample, it's just like any sample. You have to ensure you have clean materials and clean equipment. We do not want to contaminate our samples. You select an free from debris, free from mulches, manures, compost, and you take a sample at the 0 to 15 centimeters depth. Now you can choose, there's a list of equipment. You can use either an auger, you can use a shovel, you can use a spade. And of course, your sample bag and a marker. That marker is there because you must be able to identify that particular area that you sampled, because you may want more cultivated at a specific time. So it's good that you are able to tell that, because we are going to put it on our soil test report, so you are able to identify it. So you place the soil in a labeled sample bag, and then you bring the sample to us. This is my agriculture assistant 1, Mr. Shivan Gajada, and he's showing you under COVID-19 protocols how to take a sample. He's using a Dutch auger, which basically it's a tool. So he's not compacting the soil. We have to be careful not to press down on soil. That is not good for drainage, and it's not good for aeration. And he twists that soil and he puts a sample of it in a bag. And you see, he's wearing his mask, and he shows basically that's how you take a soil sample. That auger there, it measures from the 0 to 15, and at times at 0 to 30 centimeters. Now, most nutrients and the rooting system tends to be available at that 0 to 15 centimeters depth. This is just a few pictures showing my staff, Mr. Ronald Cox, our soil research technician, followed by Ms. Shanti Ramgulam. She's a laboratory assistant, and they're weighing soil for analyses. Yes, this is me. I'm not going to tell you how long ago, but it was quite some time. And this is me just showing pH analysis with regards to where pH. So this is a benchtop meter. Now I know there are field pH meters where you actually get the pH in the field, but we at the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, we are going to actually dry that soil, put it in deionized water, put about 25 grams, stir it intermittently for 1 hour and take that reading. So we are able to tell you at this point, this is what the pH value of your soil is. This is one of my workers, Miss Sherry Small. She's also a soil research technician, and she's actually filtering substrate for analysis. So you see that filter paper looking brown? Initially, what she would have done is she would have added this sample or the soil sample, add some acid and shake it for an hour. And then after you add the filtrate itself has to be filtered. And you see how it looks nice and clear. That is what you want, because after that, it's going to be UV-vis spectrophotometer, which is basically a light intensity machine, right? This is one of my very experienced workers. He has recently retired, Mr. Sudis Maraj. He retired as a scientific assistant too, and he was very versed in phosphorus analysis. So basically, he's actually using this machine where he actually puts the sample in and it measures the light intensity, and we then perform a calculation to tell you the available phosphorus. Now, this is basically, it looks funny, but this is how a crop feels in the field, because it is combating so many trials and tribulations. It deals with salt and fertilizers excesses as well as deficits, pests and diseases, and nutritional deficiencies. And you're not one person there, but it also has climatic conditions with regards to whether it's rainy, whether it's dry, whether it's, how to say, snowing, or whatever the temperature, it is facing that weather condition. And what I'm getting to is, it's very important to have soil analysis recommendations, because when we are able to provide recommendations, we show our crop care about them, obviously. This is just an example of how our soil test reports look. I know it's a bit small, I tried to shrink it, but basically what we do, we collect a demographic. You're seeing for name, address, telephone, acreage, the county that you belong to, and the date the sample was taken, followed by the GPS coordinates. I reiterated and I stated previously that we use GPS coordinates in order to identify soil physical properties and land capability uses. So as you can see, this soil was in Bonaventure, the soil type was Washington series. Now for Trinidad, we have over 120 different soil types. Yes, a study was done in the 1950s of how versatile our soils are, because just as our culture is versatile, our soils are versatile. We have to pay particular attention in how we manage them, right? So yes, we are able to identify that soil type. So you see the soil texture saying subrecent leafy sand, the drainage is free, the topography is flat, the land capability class is 4, which is pretty, it's still okay. It requires some management, but yes, agriculture can be performed on that soil, of course, with the appropriate management practices and the proposed, which means that this soil, you can plant fruits, vegetables, root crops, and most forest trees. Now, I know you're only seeing pH, phosphorus, and EC, and I've stated to the farming community or crop producers that even though some of the nutrients are missing, right, your pH gives a serious indicator of what would be available to the plant. So this person has a 5.7 to a 6.5 pH, which is basically moderately acidic to slightly acidic, which means it's in a good pH range for the availability of most nutrients. So you see, phosphorus is basically moderate to high, followed by the electrical conductivity, which is basically the ions present in the soil. So after that, we are able to give a recommendation. Now, as soils, All under 5.5, we recommend the use of limestone. Now, I tell farmers that they have to have a limestone test and a limestone requirement test because, again, we want to apply it judiciously, yes. So you have to get that done. But seeing that this person here, this Jane Doe, her pH was over 5.5, we just recommended the use of cured manure. And we told them that at the end of the day, levels are adequate, but because of the fact that your electrical conductivity falls between the low to moderate, you need to apply PK fertilizers to increase the ions in the soil. Followed, we give fertilizer recommendations. Now we work hand in hand with all our subdivisions. So we work with extension, training, and information services where we provide them or they provide us with recommendations that to farming community, because our extension officers, they are very important to getting the information out for farming community. So this is just a picture of the Trinidad Soils map. As you can see, there are various colors: red, orange, yellow, light orange, green, teal, blue. And it's basically just to show the different types of soils in, right? Last but not least, this is an example of a soil map. Now, I know I didn't stress too much on land capability reports, but I did talk about land use and land management. And this is an example of a soil map that we took in Sangre Chiquito. And usually we recommend doing land capability reports for acreages over 5 acres and up, even for more, 20 acres and up. And the reason being is because for large expanses of land, there are varying soil types, and we have to learn how to manage each and every one differently. So as you can see for this area, there are 4 different soil types, and not all of them belong to the same land capability class. So that person would have to manage that soil and know exactly how to deal with it. And we are able to give that recommendation from the research division. So again, I want to thank you. I hope that my presentation was enlightening. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you looked at this picture, which basically says that healthy soils are full of life. We have to be mindful of how we manage soils to keep it healthy. What was that line I told you? Soil is a diamond that we need to polish today and for all our future generations. This year, the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture is going virtually. And you see the theme, right? The theme is sustainable land use, food security, and I'm adding this in, and sustainability starts with the soil. I thank you for your attention and God bless. Do I have any questions?
Yeah, just hold on.
Yes, I'm seeing a question from Mr. Charles Smith saying, what about Tobago requests? I have recently received some samples from Tobago and I have sent the results. So just once you're able to, we may not be able to come and take the sample, but you can the sample for us, or you can use TT Post and send it. You don't have to send large quantities of soil, less than a handful, right? And you package it and we get them within a week. Okay, so Tobago farmers, we have not forgotten you. As I tell people, we are public servants. We are here to serve you. Any other questions? How can I get an officer to test soil? Okay, so I basically stated you can go to your county office, wherever you may be, and you can actually write a soil test request in the box provided, or you can send an email at sasu.ces@gov.tt. Mr. Mahal, you have said he has planted some tippy tambo, but the soil is very hard. I know that is because it requires some level of management. And of course, it probably requires some manure, some organic fertilizer to improve the drainage, to improve the aeration, to help fix that soil so that you wouldn't break it back. And of course, you'd get your full yield. Okay, I've not seen any other questions. No problem. I hope that the lack of questions mean that you totally understand, or even if you do not totally understand, that you do have an appreciation for why it is crucial, why it is important. It's not just for the environment, dollars and cents, energy, full stop. Don't forget to take down this registration as well. This forum will be held January the 24th to the 28th this year. Try your best and see if you can log in. It starts with us. One island, one country, one region, one world. We are all here to play our part. Again, please stay safe and have a wonderful day and a most productive 2022 on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. Bye-bye.